pretty damning indictment of where you've taken the economy, isn't it, Prime Minister? Both as Prime Minister and Chancellor, and you're generally your time in office.
I think what you failed to mention in your setup was the fact that we've
Yeah, the rest of the points I did mention, because I don't want you to go on another tangent.
Yeah, well, because I care about the impact on family finances. So where there were
stop
opportunities
this rise in bills
to say,
off, Jim, if you do.
where
I'm just taking
there
your
are
word.
opportunities,
Is this price cap going to rise?
Where there are opportunities to say.
Oh, I do miss them hilarious days of the International Trade Committee meetings when the then chair, Angus Brendan MacNeil, would run rings around our dizzy lettuce Liz, pen-clicking Anne-Marie Trevelyan, and our culture warrior Kemi Badenough over the nonsense that is Brexit. But anyway, here he is giving our Prime Minister the runaround on his lack of interest on the environment and the sky-high energy prices. And guess which get-out-of-jail-free card excuse he reaches for to try and save his bacon?
Turning to COP26, one speech, some hours in Dubai, not as much as other leaders. I know you've defended that one, but that combined with your reversals in cars and domestic boilers, on the change in the carbon budgets, are you serious about global warming, or you think it's just political positioning prior to the next election?
Yes, I am serious about tackling it, and I'm very proud of the UK's record. So we've decarbonised faster than any other major economy since the baseline in 1990 by about 50%. You can compare that to Germany 40-odd, France 20-odd, and the US hasn't dropped at all. And going forward, if you look at our NDC, our nationally determined contribution for 2035,
I'm okay.
again,
I don't need to go any further forward.
You've asked the question, am I serious about it? The seriousness is demonstrated in our commitments, which again, at 68% to 2035, more ambitious than the EU at 55, more ambitious than Australia at 45, more ambitious than the US at 40.
Reading out statistics is fine, Prime Minister, but I want to move on to energy prices, which are going up, affecting my constituents in the Hilling and Near and everybody else's constituents. It's not much of a market forces you have when companies are being protected by the regulator to put up domestic prices because they say it's unpaid bills, but they're making huge profits. British Gas has reported profits of 969 million for the first six months of 2023, 900% up from the same period of 2022. The French state-owned EDF is making an absolute fortune in the UK with profits of about 2 billion. Scottish Power is seeing their profits up as well. E.ON too. Aren't you just giving blank cheques to power companies through the structure of the energy market?
So no, I think it's interesting. The first question is about saying you're walking back, which we're not, from targets on various things, on boilers and cars. And the next question is about the impact on consumer bills. Right, so what we've done is...
The impact on consumer bills is due to allowing the regulator to raise the price for profitable companies. Enhancing profits, Prime Minister. That's what that is, so don't conflate the two.
I'm getting onto that, but I do think the impact on household finance is important, which is why my approach to net zero, and I get that you disagree with this, is one which is pragmatic. Because I care about the impact on family finances. So where there were opportunities
stop this rise in bills
to say...
off, Jim, if you do.
Where there are opportunities...
Is this price cap going to rise?
Where there are opportunities to save families £5,000, £10,000, £15,000 by adopting a more pragmatic approach to net zero, keeping us internationally leading, but doing that in a proportionate way, I think that's the right thing to do to ease the cost of living pressures on families. Now, alongside that, I implemented a windfall tax on energy companies that is 75%, and we have used the money from that tax, which is one of the highest in the world on energy companies, to help pay around half of a typical family's energy bill over the past year. So that's what we've done. 75% windfall tax on energy companies, use that money to help pay for around half of a typical family's energy bill, and adopted a more pragmatic approach to net zero, which is saving families thousands of pounds,
in the UK,
because I think that's important.
I mean, British workers, according to the Resolution Foundation, are missing out on about 10,700 a year after a decade of weak economic growth, which you're in government for a large part and Chancellor of the Exchequer for a good part. And the living standards gap is about 8,300 between typical households in Britain and their peers in Australia, Canada, France, Germany and the Netherlands. Combined with that, poorer households are about £4,300 worse off than the French and German counterparts. That's a pretty damning indictment of where you've taken the economy, isn't it, Prime Minister? Both as Prime Minister and Chancellor, and you're generally your time in office.
I think what you failed to mention in your setup was the fact that we've...
The rest of the points I did mention, because I don't want you to go on another tangent.
I'm just answering a question, which I think I am allowed to do. But if you're going to talk about the economy and the impact of living standards without mentioning the fact that we had a once-in-a-century pandemic, which caused the biggest recession we've had.
But so did Germany, France, the Netherlands, Australia and Canada and other countries already.
And on top of that, a massive shock to energy bills because of the war in Ukraine. And indeed, Germany's economy is in recession this year. Ours is not.
Why are their wages on average then 10,700 a year better than the UK's? Given all you've said and all this stuff, the UK's unique in this, and they've all suffered these things you've mentioned.
All of Europe has suffered a negative impact on their living standards. We're not alone in that, because all of Europe have seen their energy bills rise. So in all your stats, what you have to accept is if energy bills are going up across Europe, that's having an impact on everyone's bills across Europe. We're not alone in that. But what we have done is provide enormous amount of support to people to help them get through it. And actually, again, in your international comparisons, we've had the fastest recovery from the pandemic out of any major European nation because of my track record and what the government did during the pandemic.
Final point, Prime Minister. Currently, the Republic of Ireland's in a surplus of about £10 billion. The Scottish Government are having a £1.5 billion shortfall. What are the broad shoulders of the UK? Isn't independence doing better for Ireland than being in the UK is for Scotland?
Well, the Scottish Government has received record funding from the UK government.
Not as much as the Irish Government,
both the block
independent.
Again, just answer the question. Both the block grant and the most recent autumn statement mean that the Scottish Government is receiving a record amount of money from the UK Government. On top of that, the UK Government is investing directly in Scottish communities through the Levelling Up Fund and other such areas. And the UK Government is now cutting taxes for Scottish families, kicking in January. Now, obviously, if the Scottish Government has chosen to make different choices, that's for them, but we're very clear that we want to cut taxes for Scottish families because that's how we can help them with the cost of living, and we're able to do that because we're managing the economy well.
I have to say the one thing that I've picked up on these last two liaison committee meetings he's attended is that clearly he's made sure that they are very short, citing that he's very busy delivering for the people, apparently. More like pilfering the public purse to be bothered to be scrutinised. Each one of these MPs had just over 5 minutes to ask their questions, and then he just waffled down the time the best he could about any other question that just popped into his head. But certainly not the question he was asked. So he shows them, and probably the public, very little respect, if any, as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, this is the last video before Christmas, and I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for all your support and love for me and my family in this, I would say, a bit of a rollercoaster ride of a year we've had. If someone had told me a year ago you'd be nearing 27,000 subscribers in this time next year, I would have just laughed at you. So I just feel incredibly humble, and I'm incredibly appreciative of your support, and who knows where this channel will be in the next year. But anyway, have a very Merry Christmas, and I love you all. And for those who don't really celebrate Christmas, let me know down below if you want to spend an hour with me in a live stream on Christmas Day. Nothing heavy, just a chat. Maybe have a cheeky scoop or 2 or 6. Right, anyway, I've prattled on enough. So, Merry Christmas, and hopefully see you sometime after Boxing Day if my head ain't that thick. But anyway, take care, my friends, and Merry Christmas.